Welcome to Classroom Idaho. Learn at Home, Fall 2020, a partnership of the Idaho State Board of Education, the Boise School District, and Idaho Public Television.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of English as a Second Language on Idaho Public Television. My name is Mrs. Tara Weeks. And what's your name?
My name is Miss Chelsea Jordan.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hi.
Today we're going to read a story.
Yay.
What's the name of our story today?
The story is Gagan Visits Kamal.
I'm really excited to read this story.
Me too.
Shall we look at the picture from the title?
Yeah. And this is the title page of the story. So we can see a picture and the title here, which is Gagan Visits Kamal. And it's written by Shandas Manadar. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And illustrated by Pramina Shrestha. And it's a realistic fiction story. And we want to make sure that we give credit where credit is due for where this story is from. That's very important to give credit when you can. So this story is brought to you by the Asia Foundation, and we have the URL at the bottom that if you want to look up more stories from this foundation or read along with us, you can.
Yeah, this story is from letsreadasia.org.
Yes. So before we read this story, we would like to go over some vocabulary with you. So let's start. All right. The first word is to cross.
To cross.
Yes. And Miss Weeks, would you like to repeat after me? I'm going to say the word 3 times, and then you can say the word 3 times.
Okay.
Okay. To cross.
To cross.
To cross.
To cross.
To cross.
To cross.
Good. Okay, so the definition of this word is to go from one side of something to the other. And so we can see in this picture that the woman is crossing the street. She is going from one side of the street to the other.
Yeah. Are you ready for the next one?
I am.
Oh,
and this
verb.
It's a verb, yes. And we'll actually learn later, but there's many different versions of this word. It's not just a verb, but it's a verb in this case. So I wanted to use the word in an example, and it says, my friend crossed the street quickly. And now I'd like you to use the word in an example. So I think if you push the space bar, there might be a sentence frame that'll come up. There you go. So maybe let's think. We can start the sentence. I crossed the, and there's a blank.
Maybe people at home have an idea.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
Yeah. What's your idea?
I crossed the street.
Yes. Very good. Great. Okay, so let's move on to the next word. To go ahead.
To go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll say it 3 times and you can say it 3 times.
Okay, and students at home, say it with me.
Yes, so to go ahead.
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 Good. So to go ahead is a phrasal verb, and it means to go. It's a phrasal verb of go, and it means to go without hesitation or stopping. So you just continue going. And I think the next, yeah, it's a phrasal verb. All right, so I have an example here, and it says, Could I ask you a question? Sure, go ahead. So if we can see in this example, someone is giving them permission to continue, to go, to talk. Let's see, maybe you've heard this word before, or you have an idea of how to use it. So let's think of a way that we could use go ahead in a sentence.
I have an idea.
Okay, perfect. What is it?
Sometimes when you ask for directions, you might say, "Where's the store?" Somebody might say, "Go ahead, go straight."
Yeah, that's also true. Definitely. You could just say, go ahead that way, right? To go straight. Perfect. All right, let's look at the next word. Clear. All right, I'll say it 3 times and you say it 3 times. Clear.
Clear,
Clear.
clear,
Clear.
clear.
Good. So clear has a couple of definitions, actually. They're related to each other, these definitions. They make sense that they're not totally different from each other. But one definition is that something is not covered or blocked by anything. And the other one is something that is easy to understand, see, hear, or read. And it's an adjective. So I have the 2 examples here, where the first example is this first definition. So the skies are clear. They're not blocked by anything. It's clear. There's no clouds. It's clear outside. The second example, the instructions were clear. That means easy to understand or easy to read, listen to, like that. And I think there's
sense.
Okay, good. Yes, exactly. So I think there's an example here. So your turn. Something that can be clear. The blank is clear.
I have an idea.
Okay. Oh.
The cup is clear.
Yes, exactly. It looks like it's not blocked by anything. You can see through it. Good. Maybe the folks at home can look around for their items in their house and see if anything is clear. All right. The next word is stride. I'm going to say it 3 times and then Miss Weeks will say it 3 times. So stride.
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 Good. Okay, so let's look at the definition. So this definition is a long steps when walking or running. So we can take short steps, but when we take long steps, usually we call those a stride. And it's a noun.
It can also be a verb.
That is true.
In this story, it's used as a noun though, right?
Yeah, it is. I think in my example, it's a noun. So he had very long strides. Okay. Let's think. Maybe we can think about another example of how to use stride.
You know, I think I could show you an example of stride.
That would be wonderful.
I can show you, yes.
Oh, exactly. Long, big steps.
Yeah, I'm striding around my room.
Yes. I think I often use long strides when I'm kind of rushed or I'm like really busy and I'm late. I'm walking fast and using long strides.
I stride down the hall very fast when I am late for class.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so to rush by is our next word. So let's practice rush by.
Rush by.
Rush by.
Rush by.
Rush by.
Rush by.
Okay, let's look at the definition for this word. To go or do something very quickly. Okay, so when you're going or doing something very quickly, you rush. And we have this preposition at the end of rush, which is to rush by, and by is usually near you, right? So rush by is to go or do something very quickly to another person. And we have other examples too, to rush around. For example, we know the word preposition around is like this. So when you rush around, you are going everywhere and going fast. Sometimes when you're very busy, right, or very nervous, maybe you rush around, or you're late.
Miss Jordan, I have a question.
Okay, what is it?
What's the difference between stride and rush by? It seems like they both go fast.
Yeah, that is true. I think that stride doesn't have to be fast. Sometimes people take long, slow strides. We can go fast when we stride.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always go fast. But when we think of the word rush, it's always fast.
Yeah. I think stride is more like long steps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Thank you, Miss Jordan.
You're welcome. And then I also have rush through, which if we know the word through is like going through something like a hallway or a building. Okay, so let's look at the example. Everyone was rushing by me in the market. And I think we can now think of our own example. What can we put here? Do you have an idea, Miss Weeks?
The people were rushing by me.
Yeah, very good.
Or maybe the cars were rushing by me.
Oh, that's also good. Yes, cars, people. Great. Okay, let's see what's next. A crowd. So let's repeat after me. Crowd.
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 Good. So in this case, we're using it as a noun, but it can be used in other ways as well. And we have the definition here. And it's a large group of people who have come together. And it's a noun here. So let's look at an example. There was a large crowd at the airport. Now this example isn't true these days during the pandemic.
We don't
like
see very many crowds these days.
Yeah, we don't. But we used to, and often the airport had lots of crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where else can we see a crowd? I saw a large crowd at the...
I saw a large crowd at the store.
At the store. Maybe there was a sale or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or I saw a large crowd at the fireworks on 4th of July.
Yes, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
We see crowds, we used to see crowds a lot. Now we don't as much.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
All right. Okay.
So it seems like all of those words were talking about a busy city.
Yes.
Crowd, rushed, very busy.
Yes. So I wanted to have our folks at home, and Tara, Miss Weeks and I will talk about this as well, but let's think about these questions. Have you ever traveled through a busy city? What was it like? And think about specifically, how was crossing the street in this place? So let's think for a little bit.
One time I went to Los Angeles, and it was a very busy city. I went downtown. There were a lot of cars, there were a lot of people, lots of businesses.
Yeah, that is a big city. I've been to Los Angeles too, and I remember there were a lot of busy people, a lot of people, a lot of cars, and the streets were very, very big,
Mhm.
bigger than here. And I've been to other big cities, and that's kind of common. When cities are very big, the streets are there's a lot of streets, and there's many, many cars.
Mhm. Yeah, how was crossing the street in Los Angeles for you?
I was more nervous than I was in Boise because it was a little bit busier than
Mhm.
normally it is here in Boise. I know I lived in Ankara, Turkey for a couple years, and crossing the street there was very different than crossing the street in Boise
Mhm.
because you just had to go. You didn't wait for the cars to slow down because the cars usually didn't slow down, and some people didn't follow the crossing the street rules.
Mhm.
It was a
That
lot
sounds
different.
scary.
Yeah, it was a lot different. It took me some time to get used to, and it was kind of scary.
Yeah, every time I go to a new city, I always have to learn new rules for how to cross the street safely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do too.
Even when I go to a different part of Idaho, I have to think about how to cross the street safely. In
Yes,
Boise, you have to be very careful when you cross the street
you do.
and follow the traffic signals. But in smaller towns in Idaho, you still have to carefully cross the street.
Yep, that's very
Mhm.
true. It's very important to follow the traffic signals. And that's going to be a part of our story today. And actually, this story takes place in India. And you can see here on this map, India is a country and it's in red. So we're actually going to show you a video about um, what some traffic looks like in a big, busy city in India.
But before we flip on, India is very far from America. America is all the way over here, and we're in Idaho. Idaho is so small compared to the rest of the world.
It is.
How long do you think it would take to go from
Mhm.
America all the way to India?
I actually went to India when I was 18, and it took a long time. I think it was 30 hours, but that was because I had a long layover. So I think it's around, 15 hours, maybe 20
Mhm.
hours.
30 or 15 hours by airplane. It's very far to India.
It is.
Hmm. Okay.
So here's the video.
Wow. Did you see the crosswalk in this video?
Yeah, barely. There was lots of cars and motorcycles driving by.
Yes. This woman was trying to cross the street, but it was not the same as in America, was it?
It was not the same at all. It was very different.
Hmm.
She was just going and there was cars that never stopped for
Hmm.
her.
Miss Jordan, when you went to India, was it the same?
It was very similar. When I was in the big cities, it was very much like this. The smaller cities, it was less busy, but still the crossing the street was not the same at all in the
Hmm.
United as in Boise. It
Yeah.
was more like this. You go and you stop for the cars. The cars keep driving and the pedestrian or the person walking across the street stops for the cars.
Mm. Yeah. It seems like the cars just keep rushing by. Everybody's
Yes,
rushing and you just stride through.
exactly. And it's very crowded and very busy.
So, in the story we're going to read today, there's a boy who's going to walk through a street that looks kind of like this one.
Mm.
Hmm. Shall we read the story?
Yeah, let's read it. Okay, so I will read this story this time, and while I'm reading, you can remember it's readasia.org or let'sreadasia.org to find this story, and you can search the name, Gagan visits Kamal, in the in Google if you wanted to. So let's get started. All right, so the title of this story is Gagan visits Kamal.
Miss Jordan, what does Gagan mean?
That's a very good question, Miss Weeks. So Gagan is not an English word because it's a name. And the reason we know it's a name is because it has a capital letter at the beginning. And we'll see in the story that the other words around Gagan and Kamal will be lowercase, where the first letter in Gagan is capitalized. So it's a name.
Yes, that's right. Gagan is a name and Kamal is also a name, right?
Yes, good. And that's
okay. Who do you think this is in this picture?
I'm guessing it's Gagan.
We'll find out.
Let's find
out. Are you
out.
ready?
Let's do it. Oh, it's Kamal. Okay. Kamal is on his way home. He walks through the streets with long strides. The city is crowded and very noisy. So much confusion, Kamal. Do not get into trouble. Kamal looks around before crossing the street. Once it's clear, Kamal goes ahead. Motorcycles rush by. Vroom, vroom. Kamal sees a horse pulling a buggy. Thundering hooves. Looks like there's a lot of sound. He's plugging his ears. So I'm guessing thundering is something that's loud. Kamal sees his friend Gagan through the crowd. Wow, Gagan. Hello, Gagan. Now, Kamal and Gagan walk home together. All right, that was the end of our story.
Okay.
All right, so now that the story is over, we're going to read it again, but this time we want to focus on the vocabulary words. So when I read this, actually Miss Weeks is going to read the story this time, and when you hear a vocabulary word that we already studied, you're going to shout the vocabulary word, okay?
Are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Gagan visits Kamal. Kamal is on his way home. He walks through the streets with long strides.
Strides.
The city is crowded and very noisy.
Crowded? I remember crowd, and then this word looks similar, crowded.
They are related. I see in this picture, it looks like there's a lot of motorcycles, a lot of animals and people. It sounds like it'd be noisy.
Yeah.
So much confusion, Kamal. Do not get into trouble.
Yeah, it's confusing with all those people.
Kamal looks around before crossing the street.
Oh, crossing.
Once it's clear, Kamal goes ahead.
Clear.
Motorcycles rush by. Vroom, vroom. Kamal sees a horse pulling a buggy. Have you ever seen a horse pulling a buggy?
I have, but it's not very common. I've seen it sometimes, but not a lot.
Yeah, not so much in Idaho.
No.
Thundering hooves. Kamal sees his friend Gagan through the crowd. Wow, Gagan. Hello, Gagan. Now Kamal and Gagan walk home together.
Wonderful.
That was really nice. Now let's do a flow map so that we can review what we learned from this story.
Okay.
Okay, everybody at home, make sure you get your own pen or pencil and paper so that you can make your own flow map with me. So, Miss Jordan, what was the first thing that happened in this story? Oh, but before that, I'm going to write the title at the top.
Okay.
What was the title?
Gagan visits Kamal.
Gagan visits Kamal. Okay, so number one, what happened first in this story?
So first, Kamal is walking through the busy streets.
Okay. Kamal is walking through
And maybe we should mute the flow map.
Okay, I'm gonna try to draw a picture with this. So here's Kamal. And I'm just gonna sketch. These pictures are to help us remember what the story is about. It's not an art project, so we do it kind of fast. So here's Kamal, and I'm gonna draw a car. And maybe that shows how busy it was. Okay, so first, Kamal is walking through the busy streets. Then what happened?
So he's kind of confused by the busyness and the crowdedness of the city.
He's confused. How do we spell crowdedness?
There you go. Good.
Of the city. I like these words that you used, Miss Jordan. Busyness is kind of like the word busy.
Mm-hmm.
And crowdedness is kind of like the word crowded.
Yeah, they're the noun forms.
I like that. So for this picture, I'm going to draw a picture of Kamal's face. He's going to have a straight face because he's a little scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to draw a question mark thought bubble to show that he's confused.
Good, that looks great.
Thank you. Okay. Then what happens?
So he looks around. He looks around before he crosses the street.
Okay. I'm gonna show the eyes looking this way. to show looks around.
Good.
Okay. Okay, what's next?
So then he goes ahead when the street is clear.
Okay. How should I show he goes ahead?
Maybe walking with the stride, maybe?
Oh, yeah, he's gonna have a long stride.
Yeah.
He has a very long stride in this picture.
I love it. It's a good picture.
Thank you. And like I said, it's just a quick sketch to remember. It's not perfect. Okay, I'm gonna need another piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay, then what happens after that?
Once he crosses the street, he looks through the crowd and sees his friend Gagan.
Ooh, I'm gonna put a capital G for his name.
Oh, good job.
Here's a picture of Kamal, and he sees his friend Gagan.
Oh, great. That looks wonderful.
All right, then what's the last thing that happens in the story?
They walk home together.
They walk home together. All right, I'm gonna just put them smiling. Together.
Great.
Okay. So that's our, oops, I spelled home wrong. There we go. So that's our flow map. Let's review what we have on our flow map.
Okay.
First, Kamal is walking through the busy streets. He's confused by the busyness and crowdedness of the city. He looks around before he crosses the street. Then he goes ahead when the street is clear. Once he crosses the street, he sees his friend Gagan. Last, they walk home together. I think we summarized the story really nicely.
I think so too. And I like your drawings. It's not easy to draw.
It
I
is
think you
not,
did a good
especially
job.
when you're trying to draw fast.
Better
Okay,
than I could.
I think it would be really nice to let everybody at home have a chance to practice reading. So why don't we read the story one more time, and I can repeat after you.
That sounds great.
Okay. Let me put the story back on the screen. Here it is. Let's begin.
Okay. Gagan, and so I will read and then you at home will repeat. And Miss Weeks will also repeat. Okay?
Yeah, I'll be like a student this time.
Great. So Gagan visits Kamal.
Gagan visits Kamal.
Kamal is on his way home. He walks through the streets with long strides.
Kamal is on his way home. He walks through the streets with long strides.
The city is crowded and very noisy.
The city is crowded and very noisy.
So much confusion, Kamal. Do not get into trouble.
So much confusion, Kamal. Do not get into trouble.
Kamal looks around before crossing the street.
Kamal looks around before crossing the street.
Once it's clear, Kamal goes ahead.
Once it's clear, Kamal goes ahead.
Motorcycles rush by. Vroom, vroom.
Motorcycles rush by. Vroom, vroom.
Kamal sees a horse pulling a buggy.
Kamal sees a horse pulling a buggy.
Thundering hooves.
Thundering hooves.
Kamal sees his friend Gagan through the crowd.
Kamal sees his friend Gagan through the crowd.
Wow, Gagan. Hello, Gagan.
Wow, Gagan. Hello, Gagan.
Now, Kamal and Gagan walk home together.
Now, Kamal and Gagan walk home together.
Great job. And I'm sure everybody at home did a wonderful job as well.
Thank you. Okay, now that we have finished reading the story, should we do some comprehension questions?
Yes, I think
Great
so.
idea. Okay, I'll bring this comprehension questions to our screen. These are comprehension questions about the story Gagan Visits Kamal. So, I'll read the question and then you'll have 10 seconds to think about the answer. Number 1, where was Kamal going? A, the market. B, home. C, his friend's house. D, school. The answer is B, home. The story said Kamal is on his way home. How did the city sound? A, quiet. B, beautiful. C, messy. Or D, noisy. D, noisy. The city is crowded and very noisy. We can tell also by the picture that it's noisy because Kamal has his fingers in his ears. What did Kamal do before he crossed the street? A, smile at the cars. B, check his phone. C, look around. D, stop and wait. There are 2 very good answers on this slide, but the correct answer is C, look around. The story said Kamal looks around before crossing the street. That was kind of a trick question.
That was a difficult one.
Yeah. 4, what kind of animal did Kamal see in the street? A, a horse. B, a lion. C, a donkey. Or D, a dog. C, a donkey. No, that's the wrong answer. Make that say a horse.
Yes.
Yeah, Kamal sees a horse pulling a buggy.
Okay.
And we have one more question. Why do you think Kamal was confused? Think about it for 10 seconds. There's no right or wrong answer here. What do you think, Miss Jordan? Why do you think Kamal was confused?
I think that the crowd and the busy street was very loud, and there were many different people going many different ways. And so that's why he was confused.
I agree with you. I think with so many people and so many cars, it would be difficult to decide what to do next.
Yes.
I would feel confused too in this situation.
And maybe he was worried about his friend. He was thinking, oh, where's Gagan? I don't know.
Mhm.
And so he is trying to think about that.
Mhm.
And he's a little confused. There's too many things in his head.
Yeah, it seems like a very confusing situation. Okay, what's next?
So I think we are going to think about that video that we saw in India
Mhm.
and maybe think about the experiences we've had in Boise and how they're different from that. And also, I think we should think about how to be safe on the streets in Boise.
You know what, Miss Chelsea? Why don't we go on a field trip? Let's go outside and see what it's like crossing the street in Boise.
That's a wonderful idea.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Hi, I'm going to teach you how to cross the street. We want to push this button and wait until we see these lights, and we look to see that somebody is going to stop, and then we walk. Okay, we're crossing this street. We have to look at this sign, and the red band means don't cross. So I will push this button and wait. Oh look, the white man means we can walk. We're still looking to make sure nobody is coming, and there is no cars crossing, so we're still okay. Okay. There is a timer that shows how much time you have left to walk. This says 8, 7, 6. So you shouldn't walk right now because it's too short of a time. And now we should not walk at all. The cars will now cross. Okay.
Maybe push the button.
We always wait until the sign. Maybe I think I should go now, but I'm not going to go because there's still the stop sign.
Oh,
lights are on. We're waiting. Okay, you can go because they're slowing down. Okay, so we are walking here, and I want to cross this, but there is a parking lot here with a lot of cars. So what should I do? I should make sure and to look each way that there aren't any cars before I cross. Once I wait and look, I can cross. Okay, make sure you always look both ways before you cross any little place. So the same thing here, I look, I make sure, oh, there's a car, I'm gonna wait. Okay, I'm safe, I'm gonna cross. So now, this is called a crosswalk. And we can see this yellow sign that says state law, stop for, and that means pedestrians, people who are walking across the street. So in Boise, cars should stop for people, but you still should be careful. See, this car did not stop. So I am good to wait. Oh, it looks like this car will stop for me. Thank you. So you never want to step out on a crosswalk without looking to make sure the cars will stop. Because even though the law says they should stop, they might not stop. Okay? Okay, that is how to safely cross the street in Boise.
You and we went out there on the streets, but it was a little different from Kamal and Gagan's experience walking around the streets in India, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a busy time in Boise. It was pretty busy, but our experience was very different because we had to wait for the signs so that we could cross the street.
Yes. Our culture is different.
Yeah.
So we have the question here. Is the video from India similar to crossing the street in Boise? I think it is similar in some ways.
Yeah. And I mean, we are crossing the street, so that is the same. And there is many cars that are going by us that we have to be careful about. But there is a lot of differences.
Why don't we make a Venn diagram to talk about the similarities and differences?
Okay, sounds good.
People at home, again, get your own paper, get your own pencil. You can do this with us. So to make the diagram, I'm going to make two big circles. Okay, on this side, I'm going to write Boise. And on this side, I'm going to write India. And in the middle, that's where we're going to write things that were the same. Let's start with same. What was the same between India and Boise? Well, we said there were cars. We said it was busy. Was there anything else that was the same?
There was a crosswalk.
Oh, there was.
The woman was walking on a crosswalk. And I walked on a crosswalk, right? But after that, it's pretty different.
Yeah. What would you say was different in Boise?
In Boise, we had to push a button and then we had to wait.
Yeah, push a button and wait. What about in India? What do they do in India?
In India, she just crossed the street. She didn't wait for the cars.
Yeah, she didn't wait and she just walked straight through traffic.
Mm-hmm.
But in Boise, when the cars see you at the crosswalk, they stop. So
Yes.
that's different here.
The cars stopped, and there was a lot of buttons, right? The buttons are different. Like there was no buttons in India that I
No
saw
buttons in India.
in that video.
Mm-hmm. How do you think the people know when to go in India if there's no button and there's no, and in Boise, there's the signs, the flashing light sign.
Yeah, it looked like the woman didn't look very, like she looked okay. She looked comfortable. No one was worried for her. She
Yeah.
wasn't worried either. So in my mind, it's a cultural difference, meaning that she was okay. She just knew that she could cross and then stop. And then when the cars were, she saw an opportunity to go, she would go.
So the cars kind of go around people.
Mm-hmm.
Here, the cars stop, but there, the cars go around.
I also think we should talk about the fact that there was those motorcycles, the small motorcycles that aren't as common in Boise. And I think they can move around easier and quicker than cars can. And I think that is also something different.
Yeah, I agree. But other thing that I noticed was the same is that in Boise and in India, you need to look both ways before you cross. I saw the woman looking both ways, and in our video, I saw you looking both ways.
Yeah, always you have to look both ways because it's not safe to just walk straight. The cars will not stop for you no matter where you are normally.
Yeah.
They might try, but they can't stop sometimes if you're going just without looking.
Mm-hmm. Cars go very fast, and cars are very heavy. So you have to be very careful when you cross the street, no matter where you are.
Yeah. And if that woman tried to cross the street the same way she did in India, if she was in Boise, it would be very dangerous because the cars aren't expecting her to do that.
Yes, in India and in Boise, we must follow the rules. The rules are different, but we still must follow them according to the country where we are.
Yeah, and there's different rules in each country, and we just have to be careful and follow the rules of the country we're in so we stay safe.
That's right. The most important thing is that we must stay safe. Always stay safe. Okay. So people at home, I think you may have had time to copy our Venn diagram. So I'll give you another minute. While you finish taking your notes, let's just read back through. In Boise, you have to push a button to cross the street, and then you wait, and the cars will stop. And you must look at the signs at the crosswalk. But in India, the people didn't wait, and the cars didn't wait. In India, the woman walked straight through the traffic, and the cars go around people. And there were many small motorcycles. But in both, there were cars, it was busy, there were crosswalks, and we had to look both ways.
Yep, very good. I like looking at Venn diagrams. It makes me understand the similarities and the differences about many different things.
Yeah, should we give this Venn diagram a title?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What would be a good title?
Crossing the street in let's see. Crossing the street in Boise and India. Maybe like that.
I like that title. It's very descriptive. I'm gonna underline the title. And then I'm going to draw a square around it to show that we are finished. Okay.
Great.
Well, thanks for helping me make that Venn diagram. Before we go, we have just enough time to review our vocabulary. Would you help me out with that, Miss Jordan?
Let's do it.
Okay. I'm going to show us our slides again. Here's the vocabulary. This
So
one is to cross.
Yeah, to cross. And I'm going to think of a word that goes with cross, and then I'll have you repeat it back to me,
Okay.
right? So I'm going to
Cross.
say, yeah, to cross streets.
To cross streets.
Good.
Say it together. To cross
To cross
streets.
streets. Okay, so this one is go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, let's say you can go ahead.
You can go ahead. You can go
You
ahead.
can go ahead.
You can
Good.
go ahead.
You can go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Good. You'll hear that in the grocery store often, right?
Mhm.
Somebody might tell you, go ahead. You can go ahead of me.
The next word was clear.
Okay, let's say clear skies.
Clear skies.
Clear skies.
Clear skies.
Clear skies.
I like clear skies.
Me too. Okay, we have stride.
Stride.
Yeah, let's do long strides.
Long strides.
Long strides.
Long strides.
Very good. Okay. Rush by. Let's do rush by people.
Rush by people.
Rush by people.
Rush by people.
Okay, let's say a big crowd.
A big crowd.
A big crowd.
A big crowd.
Very good.
That was all of our vocabulary. And I think that's also all of our time that we have left for today.
Okay.
Well,
Great.
thank you very much for taking the time to do this lesson with me, Miss Jordan.
Oh, thank you so much, Miss Weeks. It's always so fun to work with you.
Likewise. And for you at home, we'll see you next time. Thanks for
See you
tuning
next time.
in. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Funding for Classroom Idaho has been provided by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, the Idaho Public Television Endowment, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
You're watching Idaho Public Television's Create channel, continuing education, how-tos, and travel programs for lifelong learners.